Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another one of our discipline dialogue sessions with our dual credit instructors and Ivy Tech faculty. My name is Dr. Mark Schneider. I'm the AVP of K-14 Academic Initiatives and Support for Ivy Tech Community College. It's a long title that basically means anything on the dual credit side of the world with the college that involves the programming, dual credit courses, faculty, things of that nature end up in my wheelhouse. Today, we're going to have a discussion about some of our IT programs that the college has for dual credit offerings. And joining us is Bess. Bess, why don't you take a moment here and introduce yourself to the group?
Hi, my name is Bess Camara. I've been at Ivy Tech for 20 years in the teaching School of IT courses. I currently teach a dual enrollment program at CSIA High School in Columbus, Indiana. But I've worn many hats. I've been on statewide chair for ITSP curriculum committee, vice chair, voting member, chairs, vice, I've held all the hats. So if you have a question, if I can't answer it, I can usually get you to someone who can.
Yeah, so Bess has a wealth of knowledge, and like she said, she is teaching a dual enrollment program at one of the high schools in Columbus. It's a great program, and she has that unique setting with the dual enrollment courses, doing all these college courses, but to a group of high school students, 15, 20 high school students with a bunch of different courses. So great program there, lots of great outcomes. But if anyone does have any questions during the discussion, feel free to come off mute and ask your question or raise your hand either virtually or with the button at the bottom of your screen, and we'll be happy to call upon you. One thing that we kind of start these off with, Bess, is and just to kind of level set with our dual credit instructors on the call here. As a former high school teacher myself, I taught for 10 years in high school before joining Ivy Tech. I was surprised to find out just how much faculty on the high school or on the higher ed side drive the curriculum in almost all aspects. Whether it's creating new courses, creating certificates, prereqs. All of that is largely or exclusively driven by faculty decisions. The administration has a very small part, no vote in any of it. The high school side, that's not quite the case. All that to say, our curriculum committees, the programs that meet, they meet at least once a year in the fall. Sometimes they'll meet, every semester, so 2 or 3 times a year. But with the curriculum committee meetings that have happened, in the fall, are you aware of any decisions that came out of them that would potentially impact dual credit courses? And if the answer is no change whatsoever, that's always welcome too, because if anything happens in education, there's always a lot of change going on. So maybe we can get a status quo for the foreseeable future too. But anything from those meetings that impacts dual credit?
That would affect dual credit. No, I want to say there's not. The only kind of things to keep your eyes on the horizon is, of course, the classes that teach the CompTIA A+. Those update every 3 years. I think we've still got another year before that one's going to change. Um, Changes in the curriculum as far as like major objectives or anything, nothing has changed there. But we do have several classes where maybe we've changed the assignments or maybe the book or materials that we're using. So there are often changes in there that happen there. So if there's a particular dual credit IT class that you're teaching and I hope you guys are getting access to the course shells and the materials we use and such. But if you need, I'm happy to copy paste with and share our course outlines with you and the assignments and whatnot.
Yeah, that's always good to hear. Of course, if there are very specific programming related questions too, hopefully your program chair that you work with has reached out. Anything that is going to change for 25, 26, should be communicated out by those program chairs. But
Yeah.
feel free to reach out to myself or Bess or anyone at the college. But those things should be being relayed to you one way or another. Bess, and maybe this is a good way to plug, what you're doing at the IT pathway in Columbus. But for students that are taking the dual credit, one of the many IT pathways that we've partnered up with through Next Level Programs of Study. If students are going through that program, what are some transfer options that they have, or what are some things they can do with those credits once they graduate high school, whether it's coming onto campus, at Ivy Tech? I also think, isn't there a new cybersecurity TSAP, which is a 2+2 degree, if I'm remembering off the top of my
Yeah.
head? What are some of those options that students can utilize after they get done with high school?
Yeah, that's a good question. I put my email address, by the way, in the chat. So if any of you guys ever have any questions, you are more than welcome to reach out to me and I can help you or get you in touch maybe with your local campus chair for information. So as far as opportunities, right now, I'll talk a little bit about what I'm doing at CSA for a second. We have a 3-year program there. It's a dual enrollment. They have me embedded in the high school. I'm an Ivy Tech professor, but I'm teaching in the high school. And I'm there for, most of the day. And they complete 29 college credits just in IT, and they earn the CT and help desk from Ivy Tech if they complete that. I've had several students, well, more than several. I've had quite a bit of students finish the program at CSA and then they go on to our accelerated cyber academy, which is housed down at Muscatatuck Urban Training Center. And it's an accelerated program where they finish their 2-year degree in cybersecurity. And we have a few success stories coming out of there where students have then gone on and gotten a job as a cyber analyst or cybersecurity position. And they are making, I'm just going to say they are making very good money, probably more than us, definitely more than we are. So there's that route. And of course, even if Muscatatuck is not within their reach, they can certainly transfer all of those credits. They have them at Ivy Tech, so they can then attend any Ivy Tech campus and finish out any IT degrees. You might know Ivy Tech has like 8 IT degrees, so they can specialize and go into, whether they're into networking or software development, security, informatics, and so on. Database or data analytics, they call it now. So they have lots of IT options at Ivy Tech. Many of those also, I don't want to say many of them. I think almost with any 4-year institution, they pretty much take them. It might not be a 1-for-1 transfer. For example, some students have gone on to online schools like Western Governors. They take our cyber credits really well. There are a few 2+2 programs like Mark was talking about. We've got that with cyber. We've got some agreements, I think, with IU and Purdue, where all of those things are transferring really well. But if a student is going to a school, if they're going to go on to do their 4-year degree out of state or maybe to an online school or any of these other schools that we've got around Indiana, I've seen that they have transferred and taken the credits, but again, it might not be like a one-on-one, your database class didn't transfer exactly into their database class, but they can use those credits as electives and still come out with the same amount of credits and whatnot, if that makes sense.
Yeah, very good options there. I also, looking at the website real quick, I see there's a TSAP or a 2+2 degree option in computer science as well that transfers to Just looking here, IU Fort Wayne, or yeah, or sorry, IU Southeast, Purdue Fort Wayne, Purdue Northwest, Purdue West Lafayette, Ball State, Southern Indiana. Lots of different options right there. I
Mhm.
also put in the chat, you mentioning different course materials. Sometimes there is a paywall for what's offered on campus for those materials that we would typically have on an on-campus class, just because those are supported by tuition dollars to get to offer to pay for all those resources and materials. Dual credit courses obviously don't have a cost associated with them for tuition, so they sometimes can't have those materials. But we do have what's called free material through the Commons and Ivy Learn. And so there's a YouTube video that you can click here in the chat later on and watch, and all the stuff in there is free. It downloads to either the course section that is in Ivy Learn for you, or if you have Canvas, you can download it and use that in your learning management system as well. So just pay attention, or check that out. There's a lot of good free resources, things that are being used on campus, things being used by our dual credit instructors. It's an awesome thing to be able to do. I see we have a question. So Alex, go ahead.
Can you explain the TSOP 2x2 that you were just talking about for the computer science?
Yeah, so think of, like your typical college degree, like from one of our four-year institutions in the state, IU or Purdue, Ball State, Indiana State, all those institutions. Typically it takes 4 years to get that done, 120 or 128 credit hours. The TSAP stands for transfer single, oh gosh, I'm going to mess it up. Let me just transfer single articulation pathway. And so what that allows students to do is get the first 2 years done at Ivy Tech, which has a much lower tuition cost, everything, associated with that. And then they can take that 2-year degree and then go to, say, for instance, Ball State and start their junior year and only have 2 more years to go to get that 4-year degree. So basically, you get half of your college degree done with Ivy Tech. Ideally, the way we would like to see the ecosystem develop one day, and we're kind of there already with some of our programs, is to make it kind of like a 1+1+2 degree. So your first year is done in high school with dual credit. So, talking about Beth's the pathway that she has at the high school where they're at, with 29 credit hours right there. So almost all 30 credit hours of a single year. The TC and I think you said help desk, if I remember right, having that, and then having that go into like a computer science to TSAP. So get that second year done on campus with Ivy Tech, and then transferring it to a 4-year partner. So that's the idea. 2 years locally at the community college level, and then 2 years at one of the 4-year institutions.
Mhm.
Okay. Looking here at some of the questions that we receive as well. Bess, I know that you do a lot of dual enrollment, but we also have, on the call here, our dual credit instructors. Sometimes we get questions of like what a site visit looks like from our dual credit instructors. I think they, understandably come from the perspective of like, a principal coming in and a formal evaluation, which is not what it is with the site visit. It's meant to be a collaborative, partnership. Of course, we need to make sure course objectives are being met, and like it's, all the integrity of a college class is being upheld. But it's really just kind of a partnership. But could you kind of speak to maybe what you see in a site visit, how it happens, things like that? Our newer dual credit instructors sometimes offer questions about that.
Yeah, so it'll probably be a department chair from your local campus that'll come, and they will just come and kind of maybe take a look at your syllabus, what materials you're using in the course, and just kind of like Mark said, it's really more collaborative to see what you might be lacking, or if you have the proper equipment, and what they can do to help you. Um, I mean, that's really about it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I would add as well, at least from my perspective at the statewide um, system, the college also gets a lot of benefits from doing site visits, because there are so many best practices that our program chairs and faculty pick up. The number of times that assignments, projects have been shared, I don't want to say stolen or copy and pasted, but that have been shared out from the K-12 side and been incorporated into college classes. That's like what we like to see right there. If there's a gap on either side, working together to try to build that out.
Yeah, I see that a lot. I mean, and as you guys, I mean, if you're teaching IT classes, you know that IT changes all the time and there's always a million um types of free materials out there. And sometimes it's hard to figure out, okay, which ones are the good ones and which ones are um, for example, I use Clark eMates. I don't know if you've heard of those in some of my classes. There's a lot of cyber stuff on there, a lot of some networking stuff um, and whatnot. So I have several of those. So that's the kind of collaborative thing I think Mark is talking about too. And I've learned some tools that the high schools use that are free that I haven't. I think, Padlet, things like that, some that I hadn't done before, they've told me about, and I've shared things with them. So that's always a really cool thing. And that's
Um,
another role for your department chair at a site visit is, if you're struggling with, maybe if you don't have dollars to pay for, some of the stuff we have behind paywalls like LabSim Test Out or some of those simulation softwares, things like Professor Messer, um, networking doctors, some of those, there's really good free stuff that is out there. And we can
um,
help connect you with those.
Yeah, and Beth, someone asked about the 29 credits for the new tech program. Are all the 29 credits that you're referencing, is that all IT, or does that include like, the English class and the math class and other things like that?
No, the 29 credits is all in IT. Um, and the school also has the dual credit English, a lot of the dual credit gen ed stuff, the math and some of the life or physical sciences, that kind of stuff. So I actually have, if they go through my pathway, they generally, and they pair it with dual credit very intentionally, they can have pretty much 1 year done of their 2-year degree. I actually have one student that I have to brag on that at the end of this school year, he's going to actually graduate high school with his 2-year degree. And he is very intentionally planned, I mean, from the beginning. I mean, he's been a very focused, intentional student. And he's planned from the beginning. He's been taking all the dual credit to get his gen ed stuff for his 2-year degree. He's paid for a handful of classes out of his own pocket, not his parents, but his that he's worked for. Um, he needed another handful of classes, and if everything goes well and he finishes those classes, the rest, actually he graduates next year, not this year. I'm sorry, but if he follows his plan throughout the rest of the year, I think that's really exciting.
That's amazing. We'd
Yeah.
like to see lots of stories like that. And that kind of, I guess, lends itself to my next question here. Yesterday, maybe you or some of the people on the call have seen in the news that the state Board of Education approved the new high school diploma requirements, which were for current eighth graders. So when current eighth graders graduate high school, they'll go through this new program. In some ways, it keeps things the same, but in other ways, it also offers a lot of opportunities to school districts and different programs to really expand upon itself. One of the things is a component of work-based learning. Admittedly, I have not thought much about this, and I'm kind of putting you on the spot here, Beth, so I apologize.
Okay.
But with the IT programs, and them schools now trying to think and be creative of how they can get students at least maybe 75 hours of work-based learning. What kind of opportunities? I mean, just thinking off of the top of my head, I think a school district could probably create something within their own IT department, answering the help desk tickets or, other things like that. Um, you know, uh, or for anyone on the call here, are there any opportunities that we could share out that we think would lend itself well to the new high school diploma requirements?
Yeah, I could say at CSA in my school, we've been tossing around ideas because and I'm sure you guys are more well versed in this than I am with the new high school graduation requirements, but we've been tossing around various ideas of how to incorporate other dual credit or dual enrollment. Um, my understanding is that it frees up a lot of area, the new requirements for work-based learning. And, part of that's going to be like internship is what we call it from our side, but also just other college credits as well. So, and I'm kind of jumping ahead on this, but in Columbus, each school, each program has to have an advisory board where we get feedback from industry. And the School of IT and Columbus campus is working on a new model that to use to efficiently use our advisory boards. And we're hoping that we can make contacts there through there of local employers that could take students for internships and get work-based learning. Our school has also mentioned just their specific, the school corporations having a help desk or being able to have some kind of internship set up for to help with just their own IT departments. So advisory boards at Ivy Tech, you might ask your department chair, whoever you work with at your local Ivy Tech, if they have any contacts with area businesses or anyone on their advisory boards they could approach. That would also be another way you could help do that. And they could get credit for both high school and college because we have an internship course that they can use as an elective. So that also helps get them more college credit.
Yeah, all good options there. I think IT is definitely not going to go away, and
No?
so high schools are going to be looking at how to, um, to grow those programs. But then also, um, anything that lends itself to some sort of work-based learning opportunity or internship, I think that's only going to strengthen the program. So lots of exciting opportunities that are going to be coming down the pipeline from this. Before we open it up for Q&A, I do like to remind our dual credit instructors of a couple of extra benefits for being instructors with the college that they may or may not be aware of. One is that you get 2 free courses with Ivy Tech every semester. That is for you, your dependents, or your spouse. So if you have sometimes we'll have instructors who have a kid or two going through Ivy Tech, that 6 credit hours per semester, and it's just 6 credit hours in total, not 6 credit hours per dependent or anything like that, just 6 credit hours per semester. But most of our classes are 3 credit hours and run about $500 a class. So it's roughly a benefit of about $1,000 a semester. So keep that in the back of your mind if you do have students or kids that are attending Ivy Tech. You just need to reach out to your K-14 team and they'll reach out to the HR folks to send you a DocuSign form. It's relatively painless, quick and easy to get that done as well. Also, that if anyone is paying for Microsoft Office products at home, if you have an Ivy Tech email, you can download all the suite of Microsoft Office products, Word, PowerPoint, Excel, etc., and save yourself. I think we looked it up. It was like $107 or $109 a year to have a subscription individually. But if you have your Ivy Tech email, you can go to my.ivytech.edu, and there's a link on the front page, or you can just search it in the search bar and download all of that. And that's also available for our dual credit students as well. Anyone with an Ivy Tech email, active Ivy Tech email, can utilize that. So, Bess and I have been talking here now for about 25 minutes. Want to offer up the opportunity for anyone to ask any questions or share a comment or anything like that. By no means do you have to, but want to make sure we give that opportunity out to everyone. Okay, well, if you're still thinking about a question, I'll give you another minute here. If not, we'll jump off the call here in a second. But before we do end it, Want to thank all of you as dual credit instructors, whether you're on the call right now or you're watching this YouTube recording at a later date. We really appreciate all that you do for your students this year. Ivy Tech, which is the largest dual credit program in the country by about a factor of 3 compared to the second largest in the country. We're going to serve probably about 95,000 students once we get done with spring registration. So gigantic number all across the state. We have about 3,300 dual credit instructors that are the backbone of that. This year's graduating class of high school seniors will probably earn around 10,000 completions. So think either Indiana College Core or like the help desk certificate, those types of certificates and technical certificates that are being earned by high school seniors graduating. It's making a big difference in the state and in the lives of students. Most of the time as a dual credit instructor, all the extra things that you do to be able to be a college instructor with Ivy Tech, whether it's turning in a syllabus or doing a site visit or doing the professional development modules, all those types of things. It's extra work that you do out of the goodness of your heart. You're not compensated extra for it or anything like that, but you're doing it because of the opportunities that it provides your students and your school and your community. And it really does make a huge difference, especially in the IT realm. It's the biggest shortage of instructors we have, bar none, in any of our programs is in the IT area. And so we really appreciate all that you do to help offer these opportunities to your students. It does make a huge difference in the lives. And as Beth said, some of these students finish these pathways and are 19 years old and making way more money than we will probably ever make in a single year in our life, which is great for them. A little scary. I could not imagine making 6 figures at 19 years old, but God bless them and good for them when they do that. So want to offer one last chance for any questions before we sign off here.
I have a couple questions for Bess, but they probably don't need to be everybody. I was going to ask you some questions about how you run your program through Ivy Tech the way you do, if that's okay.
Yeah, please do.
Sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
And I don't want everybody to, you don't think you have to hang out for that because it's just for my personal.
Okay,
But-
I would just plug one thing here real quick so that if others want to drop off, if you haven't already, I don't know when and Mark, maybe you can answer this, when the Canvas, Ivy Learn, professional development modules come out for the dual credit instructors.
They've already
And
come out.
Okay,
Sure.
if you haven't checked it out, make sure you check out, there is a part that has Ivy Tech toolkits or IT toolkits for each of the programs that could be dual credit. And they offer like titles of books, free resources, competitions, clubs, things like that you could tap into. It's by no means exhaustive, but it'll at least get you a start. And I'm always learning about new things too. I'm about to do I'm starting a code club. It's a Raspberry Pi Foundation thing. We've got some Raspberry Pis at the high school now, and the students love those. So I'm even always learning about new stuff that I can add or to make the class more interesting. As you guys know, it's hard sometimes to keep high schoolers' attention. So with that, make sure you check that out. And please, you can always reach out to me. I'm happy to answer questions or give you ideas on things to do in class and things like that.
Okay, so Alex, go ahead and ask your questions. Happy to answer here. We got 15 minutes before
So, I'm currently, I have 15 credits, dual credit in the SDEV area. I also am a dual enroll adjunct instructor for a couple different classes. So we're getting that 18 TC credits in SDEV. But there's a real good chance that next year I'm also going to be teaching the other direction, is going back to, I taught IT support for 20 years before I moved into SDEV, teaching that stuff. And I'm really not familiar with it's what sounds like you're teaching in those courses all the time. So can you kind of explain your path and how you get to the 29 credits as far as for you're saying that as a sophomore, but we were always kind of under the impression here that as a sophomore, you have to be in IT anyway, you have to be able to take the college ready math, and
Yep.
sophomores aren't able to really pass that college ready math because they haven't even taken it in high school yet. So how does that work?
They do have to pass that math KA, yes, and it's a struggle for some of them. So in the first year, basically it follows and you can look it up on our website, the Ivy Tech, ITSP, CT, and Help Desk. And those are the 29 credits. And we start with INFM 109 the first 8 weeks. And all they have to have done for that is the English KA. They have to have that passed. And then they don't take SDEV 120 until the second semester, the spring semester. So as long as they get their math done before spring. And we've got an iGrad coach at our school, and a CSA, and I'm sure it's easier for them in some ways being a small school. I'm not sure what school you're at. I even push them and work with them to make sure that they finish those KAs. I also start when the high school starts. You know, Ivy Tech's schedule is a little bit off from the public schools. So I start when you guys start, or when the high school starts. So there's really about almost 2 weeks, about a week and a half or so before Ivy Tech's official start date of the semester, that I can push them, focus just that week and a half. And if they have not finished their KA, make them finish that KA. And then if they need help with tutoring, of course, you know, there's the tutorials and whatnot. But the instructors at this high school, the math or counselors, are really good about also helping tutor their math so they can get a passing grade.
Yeah,
So
I teach at a
that's
career academy, so I actually get them from all over Fort Wayne and surrounding counties. And
you got a lot.
when teaching math one way is teaching math someone else a different way, and you'd be shocked at how bad my initial KA scores are with juniors in high school. And the only reason I'm really asking about the sophomore class is I've just been asked recently to write a proposal to start taking sophomores into those programs, and was like, how we can we even do accredit them because they have to have all these things. And that's why I was really wondering how your path went, because they're looking at potentially, we're changing our model in Fort Wayne to what they call schools of success, which means they're starting to take these classes as sophomores in their home schools anyway. So can we take one here at the Career Academy? I get them 3 hours, which is great, except for, I'm not a math teacher. My master's is in IT. So I, took the least amount of math I possibly could to get that master's degree.
Yeah.
And because of that, I can't teach some of the math that they're expecting to know in that KA, especially
Yeah.
because in some of the SDEV stuff, they actually have to get a higher score than just passing it. They have to get into the 70s and things like that as well.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. So one thing that's different about my role is I don't teach, typically, and I'm sure at the career centers it's different too. You'd meet once a week for 3 hours, right? In typical college class. I'm there with them every day for an hour and a half. So per class. Um, so I do get I get quite a bit more time with them than I think some of the other typical college classes and career centers are doing. So that's something to consider too. But yeah, you know, yeah, we really push that, and we've had to make adjustments too along the way. So we're even focusing now this next year on how we recruit those freshmen and start getting them ready their freshman at the end of the freshman year so that they're ready sophomore year. And I know it's a hard lift, and it takes a lot of time pushing these students, but getting them to take the KA their freshman year and work over the summer on, you know, all the tutorials and things are right there for them, or, getting tutoring over the summer or something. But yeah, it's hard, and they're all not going to be able to do it. But yeah, maybe if there was some sort of tutoring freshman into the freshman year, that's a thought to help them get past that KA? If I don't know what resources you have, but
I would just add or emphasize what Bess was saying about getting students to start their freshman year with some of these things. They don't have to enroll into a class to still register for, through dualenroll.com, but they can start taking KA, at that time. And I have seen in other programs in other parts of the state where there is a KA math requirement and they want to build out a 3-year pathway instead of a 2-year pathway. And there really being a big push and of course, it takes resources, it takes time, it takes effort, planning, but to get those students in, dualenroll.com and have them start taking KA, maybe spring break of their freshman year, let them try to work on it some before, try to get them to pass it before they go on summer break. If they don't pass it, give them that homework assignment of trying to work on that over summer break. Of course, some don't, but some would. And then also you still have that testing window before your dual credit classes have to meet that, it's usually September 15th-ish deadline of meeting the prereq. So just a longer runway you can give to work on the KA math, especially, the better off you'll be.
I'm wondering too, Alex, in your program, how many IT classes are they taking? Did you say?
For me, they're taking 5 in their first year. And then as a capstone, we actually there's none in SDEV that qualify for dual credit and capstone right now. So that's why I'm teaching dual enroll. I actually taught a 220 course I'm finish up Friday for my first ever class as the 220 course. And then next semester, we're going to take SDEV 148, which is the intro to game design. And some have already done that over the summer, so they don't have to take it. But I'm going to actually bring some of my first year students in to take that SDEV 148 because they already have the prereq this semester from SDEV 120. So, but it's, that's really the hard part is the prereqs line up interestingly to get to that second. So I do SDEV 120 and SDEV 140 second semester. But I'm also doing INF 109 at the same time. I'm doing SDEV 120 and then DBMS and then the website, the web development, which I think is 158, are full year classes. So they've got it kind of set up, but I do give them 3 hours. So I have plenty of time to do all those things. It's just, the hardest part for me with trying to figure out the sophomore class was, what would I do differently with them that I wouldn't normally be doing with my juniors and seniors, because they can't necessarily get to that. You can't get to that point until you do SDEV 120 to get that prereq for the rest of them. So you have to have that. How do I get them to pass that test? Because some of them were barely taking freshman algebra as freshmen and getting here and expected to know algebra 2 and beyond for that KA.
Yeah. I'm looking.
It's just I guess a neat thing that we're going to have to figure out up here if we end up doing the sophomore class kind of.
Oh, I see. The other thing I would encourage you to explore, and I could help you, or the department chair you work with at Ivy Tech can do the same thing, but I would be interested to explore, see what CT's software development has, and if you could get, if they're all qualified as dual credit, or if we could see about getting them added to the NLPS stuff.
The problem with them is, and we tried, that's why I'm teaching the dual enroll, because all my second year students.
Oh, you're dual enroll. That's
yeah, I'm dual enrolling those CT to finish the CT because game design is not on LPS, and then the SDEV 220 course could be, but it's not as a dual credit. And I understand completely why you would want to do that as a dual credit, because that's one of the higher level language courses. So that's why it has to be dual enroll. But yeah, as of right now, the SDEV doesn't actually have a TC that they have is all with everything as a dual credit.
I see. That's interesting to think on. Yeah, I'd like to look up some of our SDEV classes, maybe talk to the SDEV statewide chair. And yeah, if you want to like reach out later and we'll talk about this more offline and let's look at what you're doing. I have more questions for you too about how you're making all this happen. But I don't want to take up everybody's time. So let's plan to, reach out to me and let's maybe get a time to chat and explore this further.
Yeah.
And Chris Roberts is my chair, but I sit down with the dean all the time as well of
Okay.
IT, and it's just not on the crosswalk. If it's not on the crosswalk, they can't offer as dual credit. So it's trying to get it to the crosswalk and then not really being able to put it on there is what they tell me. So
Include me on that email too, and I can loop in our newish IT vice president. He's been on the job now about 6 months or so, but he's very enthusiastic about expanding our offerings into the K-12 space as much as possible. So I'm sure he'd be happy to join as well.
Yeah, I want to do the same thing. One of my goals is to figure out how we can get more of this going in the high schools, and it's just not clear yet, So we get creative sometimes.
Do we have any other questions? We got 2 minutes here before the top of the hour, and we have to end our meeting, but want to let anyone ask any quick last second questions.
I had a question. I've been teaching dual credit courses for the past 12 years with Ivy Tech. And since the implementation of the NLPS pathway courses, I've actually seen a reduction in the number of kids signing up for the dual credit because of SAP and having to abide by the withdrawal and drop deadlines and registration deadlines. Because before we took the kid, we had a registration deadline, but if the kid had a D or an F by the end of the course, we were just able to email our chair and have them dropped so that it wouldn't hurt their SAP. Because we want to be upfront and honest with our students and parents that this could impact financial aid for you if you do not perform in this class. But one of the, that's intimidating, telling a high school student hey, you're a freshman in high school, and if you don't, get a C or better in this course, it scares them away from it. So
Maybe
I'm
I feel
curious,
you.
is this I'm curious, was this an Ivy Tech decision? Was this a Committee for Higher Education decision? Is this as a result of accreditation and having to maintain that? Where did this come from?
Real quick, to answer that question simply is it's a requirement of our accreditation body, NACEP. So we have to have added or registration windows, drop windows, withdrawal windows that have to be upheld. The idea being behind it is that it's a college course, so we have to follow college procedure as much as possible. So we have to have, all of these different deadlines. And if whatever the on-campus practice is, we have to mimic it to the fullest extent in a dual credit class. And on campus, if a student is getting a D or an F the last week or two of a class, we can't just simply withdraw them from the class and not have that appear on their transcript. So yes, I mean, that is definitely something that has changed post our NACEP accreditation, from a few years ago. It's more formalize that. I will say though, for the SAP status, your VCAA and the campus can override that and allow students to continue in a pathway if they are on it. And also, our statewide agency that oversees us, CAG, has said statewide they've seen very, very few cases where SAP status has caused long-term issues. It's usually just that one short-term issue, which is meant to be more of a pause to have a discussion whether a student should continue in a particular college program. And to facilitate that discussion, the impacts to financial aid, while it could potentially happen, they have only seen, I think they said 3 cases or something like that in the last 5 years. So it does happen, but very rarely. It's meant to be more of that conversation. Bess, I will let you offer your sympathy or empathy for what I know you said you run into very similar situations as well, and then let you share those thoughts, and then we'll have to end our meeting today.
Yeah, I get the same thing. And so I've been trying to come up with ways to, you know, get that in the students' heads. So for next year, I haven't actually implemented it yet, but I've made up a quiz that the students will have to do, making it part of the points. And it's going to be over stuff like that, like college basics, so to speak, where, they have to take this test or this quiz. And, I'll probably pull some stuff from the student handbook and the things about, you are an Ivy Tech student when you're in this class. You're not in high school, you're an Ivy Tech student. The stuff does go on your permanent transcript. And, I'll have stuff on there about, how that can affect you financially, all those things that you mentioned. I've also thought of kind of doing the same quiz thing, maybe in more of an interactive platform. Um, so, that's another, just some ideas maybe to help you with that.
Are you finding that numbers are down and it's the possibility of that is scaring them and preventing them from even signing into dual enroll and creating an account to do KA and all that stuff?
I haven't really experienced that, but I mean, that wouldn't surprise me if that's happening.
Okay.
I'm
All
sure
right.
in some places, but looking at our numbers statewide, they've gone up year over year for the last few years. But to Bess's point, the idea of a dual credit class and dual enrollment, but for any of our classes, it's a college class, college rigor, college standards, college prereqs, college responsibilities that go with it. And especially for a dual credit class, they can still take the class, just not for dual credit if that's a concern. But that it's something to consider when signing up for the class. So appreciate this great discussion today. This has probably been my favorite one so far of the 18 we've done so far this fall. So appreciate it. Great discussion. If you have any other questions, just reach out to us. We have our email in the chat, and we'll be happy to connect any dots that need to be connected. Thank you very much. Have a good rest of your semester, and keep up the great work. Thanks.
Thanks, guys.